So this is a quick farming run for the crystal cores, the material needed to make the condensed resin. The full run takes about 4 to 5 minutes depending on how efficient you are at grabbing them. Now there are farming runs out there that give you 30, 40, maybe even 50 crystal cores. The reason why I'm doing a run for much less, as in 12 to 15 cores at a time, is rather than spend 30 minutes farming purely crystal cores, it's much easier every few days just to run through maybe 12 or 15, which will cover your bases for the next few days until you could do another run. So since we only produce about 180 resin a day, let's say 160 of that will go into condensed resin at the very most. That gives you 4 cores a day. You need 16 cores tops, if you're not resin refreshing, of course, for 4 days. The respawn timer is shorter than that, so you would actually be able to build up a bank of crystal cores over time. Now, moving on to the locations, we have our first one here that we pretty much should all know well. It's the Windrise tree. There will be a couple of crystal cores that are flying around here at pretty much any time after the respawn, of course. You can easily pick them up there right next to the teleport location. Now, moving on to one that we might not all know about is right above Mount Auzang here. We have two locations. So right next to the waypoint, we have this pink line here at the top. So once you teleport there, you could just quickly go down through these two clovers here to pick up the crystal cores at the locations. And then from the domain here, there are two separate routes that you could do here. One, the red line here, is right along the coast here, so right along the water. If you follow it, there will be two locations where crystal cores appear. And then the blue line is something separate. So if you go through a tunnel next to the domain here, and then you'll be able to cross through this mountain, and then all the crystal cores will actually be found in the mountain. So the first two clovers will be in tunnels through the mountains, and then the last one will be against the wall here. Moving on to our next location, we have one right to the left of Mount Tianheng. It's right under the domain there, so the encircled clover. The location will actually be in a cave under the domain. At the entrance of that cave, you'll be able to find two or three of the crystal cores there flying around. They'll just be towards the entrance, so not too far if you could just TP to the domain. Next, we have the final one here, the Guyun Stone Forest. So if you TP to the domain, there will usually be a couple of crystal cores just flying around the base there, so at the floor level. And once you actually pick one up, they will start to fly up. So you'll follow the red path here. So you'll go outwards to the first clover. You'll then be able to pick up a couple of crystal cores that are just flying outside near the entrance of the domain. And then if you circle around on the rocks going above the domain entrance, you'll be able to jump off and glide and pick up any crystal cores that you need. There will usually be 3 or 4 that flew up from when you picked up your first one on the ground level. And the last thing that I'd highlight in this run is that when you do approach the crystal cores, when you do take the first one, since they do oftentimes come in clusters of 2 or 3, the others will quickly fly up. So as you can see now in the footage, I don't actually go to the crystal core and grab it fast enough, and I try to chase it up, but it's actually flying up too quickly, and you will sometimes miss it if you're not fast enough. So that would be the only thing to worry about, and that's about it for the farming run.